an issue that we are both very passionate about. In fact, that was how I initially heard of you, because I talk about municipal broadband a lot too, and I know it's a big part of what you're doing. So I got a broadband update for you. You may have already seen this, but something's going on kind of near me in Southern California. California South Bay cities finish a fiber network, and now they're looking to smart application. A group of 15 cities in Los Angeles County, California, they're closing in on the competition of the South Bay Fiber Network. Now, this is a public-private partnership with American Dark Fiber, and this is according to a Redondo Beach council member. Here's what they said in the press release. The SBFN will allow us to serve all of our residents better and improve their quality of life on so many levels, including real-time transportation, traffic control, connectivity. The COVID-19 pandemic has proven to any doubters that access to affordable and reliable high-speed internet is even more important, as it will allow the increasing number of city workers and local residents to efficiently work from home. So it looks like they're trying to connect the cities, they're trying to get some hotspots, and then eventually they're going to go straight to the home. So that's something that's going on kind of close to me. I live in the Los Angeles area. And of course, this story is from muninetworks.org, which if you want to keep up on what's going on in the world of municipal broadband, which for anyone who's newer to the show, that basically means city and municipal owned internet, where your internet is just a utility. This is one of the best resources for it. And I know that Portland has had a lot of municipal broadband efforts as well.
I mean, we are just at the beginning. We're working on it. One of the most effective ones has been in a smaller town down the Columbia River called Sandy, Oregon.
Yep.
But really, I'm thinking about this more systemically in terms of community infrastructure investments writ large, because right now what we're facing is these intersecting crises, right? We've got COVID and we've got the digital divide, and our families and our workers. Like, I had to go upgrade for my campaign just so that I could be able to do interviews like this with you. And I'm paying, several, I think maybe $50 or $75 additional just for the boost to have the high speed out of my home now. And think of all the workers who are having to do that. You add the families who don't have access to broadband, who are sitting around school bus hotspots or Starbucks with the passwords in the parking lot trying to get their kids access to education, right?
Well, and let me add something to that real quick. The really scary thing there, too, is that there are still a lot of areas in this country where big cable has a monopoly.
Yeah.
So if somewhere like Comcast, in fact, a part of Philadelphia was dealing with this, if Comcast decides they don't want to build a hotspot, or they don't want to allow a hotspot in the certain area, these kids don't have access to the internet, where their school currently is. Their school is on the internet, and they don't have access to it. And Comcast, some big cable company whose only concern is profit, gets to decide that? That's absolutely insane.
Yeah. And so you think about it from the equity issue, you think about it from the access issue and workforce and economic development and jobs. But then you also think about it as investment, right? Why should it be the Comcast Corporation or, a handful of others, these multinational IT corps that want to then take all the profit off our community? If everybody in this town is writing checks every month, well, maybe those dividends should be accruing here. Like, let's make that infrastructure investment ourselves and accrue those dividends to our people so that they're not scraped off again into the pockets of these multinational corporations. If this wasn't good business, they wouldn't be in it. So I don't know why cities are so reticent to be in this. And it's the same with community energy. As we look at that managed decline of the fossil fuel industry and how we transition those workers out of the fossil fuel jobs into green energy jobs and clean jobs, well, there's a lot of investments we can be making where we're paying ourselves and paying back ourselves for investments that we've made that are gonna accrue dividends for us in the long term as a city and as a county and region here in Portland, I think.
Well, so why do you think? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. Do you feel like the municipal broadband movement has grown some as a result of this pandemic?
Oh, and totally.
I agree. What do you think, though? What do you think it's going to take to really catch on nationally? I mean, people are obviously interested in this stuff because you look at, when net neutrality is front and center, when it's actually talked about and a lot of people know what's going on, when we were first rallying for net neutrality to get it solid on the books back during the Obama years, so many people commented they crashed the FCC's website. When these issues are highlighted, people do care. They understand what's at stake. But a lot of times it's not talked about, or a lot of times you don't, especially when you have a major news network that's owned by Comcast, you're not going to get an honest story about net neutrality there. It's just not going to happen. So, what do you think it's going to take for the country to really understand what this is, what it does, and what the potential is?
Well, again, not to harp too much on public financing, but I can't take a single check from Comcast and think about all the lobbying you can look at our current mayor's calendar right now and see how many meetings he takes with Comcast, even as the 5G issue has been out front, that, you've
really.
Yeah, you can look at if you're a lobbyist, you have to declare. And they're looking at the takeover basically of the commons, trying to put their private infrastructure onto community-owned infrastructure, telephone poles, right? Transit. My transit agency here in Portland has to deal with this. And we're not, it's a takings away from municipalities, and the FCC is basically letting them do that. And so when we look then at what it takes to resist these forces, to buck these trends and go a different direction, that independence in campaign financing is key. But I also think one of the reasons that I work at the municipal level, and why I love cities so much, and why I love a city the scale of Portland, and with the aspirations and the grand vision of Portland, is that we can make things happen here, and then we serve as a model for the rest of the world. So whether or not, I don't think that these movements are going to catch like brush fire and take over across the United States. I can see it working very well in Portland, and then it being taken up by Wellington, New Zealand, and then being taken up right by places where you've got things happening because cities are talking, cities are in networks. Progressive cities are looking at solutions for their people. And if you can make a run of it in Portland or other cities like that, then people will say, well, they did it there, so we might as well try it. For me, my career the past 10 years has been working in best practices brokerage with cities around the world, because people came to Portland because they heard something was going on here. Great. And what I've been able to do is cultivate a network of those city leaders, and what we can be on speed dial with each other. Auckland, New Zealand, when it comes to their transit investments, right? Sydney, Australia, when they're thinking about bicycle infrastructure, and say, hey, what worked, what didn't, and let's tweak these as we move these from city to city. And I actually see the cities themselves as the way that these initiatives take off. Would it be great if federal governments were helping? Yeah, but as far as I'm concerned, the feds have left the building. If they want to come back in, that's going to be great. But I haven't seen a federal urban policy since probably Jimmy Carter in the United States of America. So cities are largely on their own, I feel like.
Well, yeah. And that's why, it was really refreshing when somebody introduced me to you, because it was just, if electoral politics is going to be your vehicle, I've said it to so many people, I really wish more people would act locally. Mayor, school board, city council. I'm like, look, if every single city council had a Shamazouant or a couple Shamazouants, we'd have a different country pretty quickly, because, every neighborhood adds up. And, and bringing it back to municipal broadband before we get into the larger thing, one thing that you do see is when somebody nearby gets it, other communities want it. Pretty much the most municipal broadband projects right now, or one of the most in the entire country, is Tennessee. Why is that? You and I both know why that is. Chattanooga. They were one of the earlier adopters of it. They built this amazing network because of the grid. And right now they have some of the best internet in the world, not just in the country, in the world. And it's city owned. And they find out that they pay less for it. Then, I guarantee they pay less for their internet than you and I both do. Because like yourself, I need to have a business account too to be able to do this stuff. But they just get this amazing internet at an amazing price. I had a friend of mine who I was going to try to get on this show to talk about it. She made a post on Facebook. She left LA and she went back to her hometown of Kentucky. And she decided to stay there for a while until this thing blows over. One of the reasons she decided to stay there is she goes, me and my boyfriend are both working from home, and our internet's amazing here, and it's $50 a month. She has municipal broadband, and I looked it up. Her town has municipal broadband. I don't even know if she realized that or not. She might, I'm not sure. But it's like her town has municipal broadband. So people that have it realize how awesome it is. And then other places want to get it. And it does kind of, I mean, I'm always hesitant to use the spread like wildfire analogy just because I live in Southern California. That's a bad analogy to make here. But like, but I mean, people, when they see it, they want it. And that's why I get particularly excited here in Southern California, because it's like, look, you know, well, until recently, we were the capital of show business. We might become that again. I don't know. Who knows? But, you know, once like a major part of the Southern California, Los Angeles area gets it, everybody's going to want it, because every studio is going to want the best internet possible, of course, you know, especially in the digital landscape we live in. And, you know, I'm just hoping that it really spreads. I mean, there was that study in Harvard that revealed every time a city does their own project, people get better internet at a better price. It's a no-brainer.
Economic impacts. If I've got people who now have locally owned firms that can put in the infrastructure, that can do the systems maintenance, the tech support, those are jobs. Those are my jobs.
Yes.
Those, I get to create those jobs. That's good for my economy. That's good for my reelection, right? Like, I want to be that person who gets to not have those talking points stolen by neocons, because I want to create good jobs in my place. I want those are good family wage jobs.
So when you're elected mayor, what is kind of like your ground game on getting municipal broadband?
So what I'm going to do is build it into my COVID recovery, and I want to do it.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, I want to build it into the COVID recovery in the first 100 days. I mean, I want to take advantage of that cheap money out of the feds, and I want to do a lot of public works projects. I want to transform some of my parks and community centers that are being shuttered right now due to COVID and budget cuts, and really think about what does a resilient community look like bouncing back from COVID? You know, we're looking at mass transportation. You talk about municipal broadband, and transportation is another place where people have come to Portland and they hop on one transportation mode to the other, to our bike share, to, you know, streetcar, to light rail, a bus, and they're like, this is so effortless. Why doesn't everyone choose to live like this? Making sure that the good life accrues to your people should be part of our COVID recovery. And we can make those investments for our future, because why not? Why wouldn't we be investing in that stuff at this time? We need to put people back to work. We need to be making these public infrastructure investments. And it's time for us to think about a new progressive era. We're leaving this second Gilded Age. We saw what this looked like the last time we left a Gilded Age. History doesn't need to, you know, it's not like it's going to unfold differently. Our recovery from all of this and our pathway forward is a climate justice one. It's about making sure that the jobs of the future are clean and green. It's literally not rocket science, but we've allowed the investment in our people and the investment in our places to be so hijacked as this heinous like I think Bill Barr called Portland like this, we're all these violent anarchists, and Donald Trump called us like a bee's nest of terrorists or something. And I'm like, have you seen us? We like plant gardens and ride bikes and start businesses and like print magazines here. So yeah, we're going to make it around the economy. You have to. It has to be around a just economy for your people, and making sure that your investments pay off for your people.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your